do that for a minute. Great. Well, welcome everyone. This is to the third AICHO event in this Indigenous Health Series via Zoom. So first, I just want to go over a few logistics. We are recording this event this evening, and a link to view this session will be made public, or it's going to be made public through our YouTube, our AICHO YouTube channel. And then also we will be sending them out after the presentation as well. Your videos will be turned off during the presentation, and we ask everyone to keep their mute button on during the session. Please use the chat button though if you want to add comments or ask any questions. We are going to have a Q&A time at the end. So just wanted to get those logistics done. So first I want to say miigwech for joining us for this AICHO session titled An Indigenous Cultural and Community Response to Mental Health and Wellbeing with Francis Saukko and Frank Goodwin. This presentation is made possible because of funding support from our partner, St. Louis County Public Health. And I want to introduce myself, LeAnn Littlewolf, Nindigenous Jaganashmoan, Indisogijik Indigo, Dash Maingan Indudame, and Gazaga Squajame Cogn Unjaba. And so my name is LeAnn Littlewolf. I use she, her pronouns. I belong to the Wolf Clan and I come from Leech Lake Tribal Nation. And I'm the co-executive director at AICHO. I work and live here in Onigamasing, which is also known as Duluth. And this is the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, the Dakota, the Northern Cheyenne, and other Indigenous nations. So we always like to acknowledge the land that we are on. And I also like to acknowledge that the city that I work and live in is on ceded territory that was established by treaty between nations, the Anishinaabe tribal nations and the United States government. And I welcome everyone to feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. And also if you'd like to acknowledge any the Indigenous lands that you live on, we always like to start in that way. And before we get started with our presenters tonight, I just want to share a little bit about American Indian Community Housing Organization, AICHO, who is hosting this event. AICHO, we are an Indigenous-led people-first organization. We provide culturally specific domestic violence emergency shelter through Dabanuagan and legal advocacy. We provide support for affordable housing, cultural and community programming, Indigenous arts and cultural programming, children and youth programming, and food sovereignty movement building and social enterprises that build Indigenous community and economy. And all of our work is anchored in our mission, which is to honor the resiliency of Indigenous people by strengthening our communities and centering our Indigenous values in all aspects of our work. So tonight's presentation is the third in a series of 3 virtual Indigenous health-focused webinars that AICHO has been leading in partnership with St. Louis County Public Health. The first we had on October 5th was with Cheryl Whitehawk talking about recovery and cultural approaches. The second was on October 12th with Sharon Day from the Indigenous Peoples Task Force talking about HIV and AIDS outreach in Indigenous community. And tonight I am so excited and grateful to be here to learn with you from Frank Goodwin and Francis Saukko, who I am so honored to be in this space with both of you and excited to talk about the work that you've been leading for years. So tonight we're going to get to hear all the good things that you do in and with community. So the focus tonight is we're going to talk about community work you both do to help Indigenous and Native community in recovery from addiction and sobriety and having mental health support, and why having a Native cultural approach is effective in reaching community members. So first, I just want to give you our presenters a chance to introduce themselves. Please tell us your name, what community do you live and work in, your preferred pronouns, your clan, your tribal nation. And then I just have this warm-up question, like what is your personal favorite cultural practice or activity? And Frank is, we had a little bit of technical difficulty, so Frank is coming in via my phone, so hopefully this will work. But Frank, if you want to go first, and then we'll pass it over to Francis.
Mary, Saukko my name is Frank Goodwin. I'm really from the white-haired band of the Mississippi band of Ojibwe. And there I am. Oh my God, okay. I've been living here in Duluth probably for the last about 36 years now. And I got involved with a program long ago back in the 90s. It was called Mino. It was a community organization that really did a lot for the Native people in our community, to help them create a voice for themselves and allowing Native people to participate, in government, local, city, and being really a part of the community. And I think one of my favorite activities, doing the cultural activities, is my younger days. I was a dancer, men's traditional dancer, and I love to dance and express myself through dance. And when I'm dancing, there's a lot of prayer. It was more of a spiritual thing, and I ended also expressing myself through dance. So I guess one of my favorite cultural things is dancing, and today I can't dance 100 miles an hour like I used to, but I still love to go to powwows. I still love to go out there and dance as much as I can, and not only for myself, but my family. My wife dances, my grandson dances, and my family, they participate. So I think that's one of my favorite cultural activities that help with.
Thank you, Miigwech. And Francis, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Francis Saukko. My Anishinaabe name is Makadema Kwaikwe. My family comes from the Red Lake Nation. I live and work in Duluth. I've lived in Duluth all my life. One of the favorite cultural activities I would have to say is powwows also. It's just a fun time to go visit with family and friends. I'm currently making regalia and beadwork for my grandkids. They're starting to dance now. So yeah, that's always a fun time.
Great, thank you. We had this event on Monday night here called Nujimo Young, which is We All Heal Together. And we had some presenters, and I asked this question. It was really great to hear what people's activities are. And I shared that my favorite cultural activity is visiting. And it's something that, especially when I don't feel good, I know, like, if I can just go have a cup of tea or coffee with someone and just sit and visit, it just resets me and puts me back in place. And I know that comes from when I was a kid, and I used to live with my grandma, and she would go around and visit people, and she brought me with her, and I learned how to visit because I watched how. That's what she taught me. So my whole life, visiting has been like one of my cultural activities that I just really love. And I think that comes from our people. So today, I'm excited to visit with both of you. And I want to first start by talking with Francis about the monthly sobriety feasts that happen in Duluth. So Francis, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what happens at the Duluth Sobriety Feast, and when and where is it, and who can go?
Our Duluth Sobriety Feast happens every last Friday of every month. We hold it at the Central Hillside Community Center on Lake Avenue and 4th Street. It's from 6 to 8. Anybody is welcome, but it is a specifically Native sobriety feast. Because we bring in the drum, the smudging, the prayers. Yeah, So anybody is welcome. It's also a potluck style meal. So if you want to bring a dish to share, you can do that too.
So if someone goes to the sobriety feast, like what can they expect?
When we hold our meetings, we ask a community member if they'd like to share their story. So we bring in a speaker every month to share their story. We start with a smudge. We go around the room and have everybody smudge. And then we'll listen with the speaker. And then if anybody has any questions for the speaker, they can ask questions. And then we have the drum. They sing a few songs. And then there's a little bit of visiting, and we wrap it up with another song, usually the traveling song. And then we wrap it up.
What ages are of the people who show up?
There's always at least one child there. I know I bring my granddaughter every time. She's 5. People bring their newborns. There's elderly people. There's a couple that come religiously every month. Kathy and Richard, they're married. They come every month. They're elderly people. So it's all the way from newborn to the elderly that come to the meetings every month.
So how did the sobriety feast get started?
Babette Sandman, who is on the Duluth Indigenous Commission, was talking with me about it. She wanted to get something started for the Native community because there isn't and wasn't anything specific to the Native community in Duluth as far as sobriety meetings. So we met with some community members, and we got a grant to get it started. And then through the Duluth Indigenous Commission, we got a spot, which is still at the Duluth Community Center, to hold the meetings. And that's how we got it started. And we used Chum as our fiscal agent. And we had to stop because of COVID. But then after it was, time was going on and it was getting a little bit better to go out and feel a little bit safe, we got the meeting started back up.
When people came back to the sobriety feast, like did they, because I know like during the pandemic with everyone being isolated from others, like did people talk about what that felt like to come back in person?
Yeah, they said it was refreshing. A lot of people talked about how depressed they were, and a lot of people relapsed during the COVID. So a lot of people expressed how grateful they were to have something like that to come back to. They just felt so isolated and alone, and having an event to come back and connect and have people support them was really needed.
Do you, so it's a sobriety feast, and I know like you have a speaker, and then do you ever, I know like at some sobriety feasts that I've been to in other communities, they also do like medallions to honor sobriety. Do you do that too?
Yeah. Actually, I just ordered some more. So this next meeting, we're going to be handing out more medallions.
Yeah. So I have a question. How do the cultural practices that you have at these events every month, how do they help the people who attend?
I think as Native people, we just really need to feel connected, and connecting spiritually and culturally. I think that really does something for your spirit. I just feel like Native people are so family oriented and need that connection that I think bringing in the drum and the smudging and usually we have a spiritual advisor there to pray and just talk with people. I think that really does something for their spirit.
Thank you. So why do you personally help organize these monthly meetings?
I feel really passionate about helping people in general and helping our Native community. Personally, I have close family members, some friends that are struggling with addiction. And if I can just do my little part to help, it's just, even if I can help one person, it's all worth it.
Well, thank you. I'm going to ask Frank some questions, and I'm going to come back, and then we're going to have a conversation with the three of us. So I'll be coming back. So thank you for telling us about the Sobriety Feast, and I'm sure there's going to be questions about from the audience as well.
Okay.
All right. So we got you, Francis. So Frank, I have a question for you. If you could share with us how about the talking circle and the other support groups that you offer, and could you tell us like when and where they are, and who can attend, and what can people expect when they come to these support groups that you offer?
Okay. I'd like to start from the beginning, I guess. Probably started in 1990 when my father had a program called Walks Tall, working with men coming out of prisons to help them transition into society. And we would provide cultural activities, sweat lodges, different talking circles, different types of wellness type of activity. And that kind of, I've been doing this for many years. Well, in about 2014, I was working out at my Scholarly Treatment Center as a cultural advisor and stuff. And I resigned my position, and I was thinking about, starting up some things in our community because there was a need. And we started a talking circle. And I approached Kamaji of AICHO and talked to the person at the time and basically to provide a space for us. And they were willing to provide a space for us where we could conduct a weekly talking circle. And it was on Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock. We started at 6 at first. And then as we went along, we kind of switched times to 7 till whenever it's over. And the majority of people that attend our talking circle are people in recovery. And they can be recovered from anything. But the thing is that when they join the circle, it's kind of like what's said here stays here. And the people that want to share, we provide that safe environment for them to come in and talk about whatever's going on with them in their lives. And I think that in the cultural aspect, as we've been sitting in circles for many years, our people have been sitting in circles and talking and sharing, and to bring that back and to allow people to come. And at first it was hard because people didn't come. Sometimes just my wife and I would come, but I'm a strong believer in being consistent, and every Tuesday night, that's where we'd be. We'd be there every Tuesday night, regardless of anybody's show. And pretty soon, gradually, the people started coming, and keeping that door open for them is so important. And I invite all people. One thing my father would always say, you never, just because they're not Native doesn't mean, they don't hurt, and they need a place to come and share. And so our circle is open for everybody, to participate. We have African American people, we have Asian people, and to participate in our circle. And we start off with a blessing from the sage, and with smoking of the pipe, and sharing it with the people. And we have an eagle wing fan that we pass around, And Eagle Wing has been passed around many times in many different situations. And the people that understand the sacredness of that Eagle Wing and the feathers and stuff. So we've been doing this for quite some time. And from that, we started the Talkie Circle in 2014. And from there, it went on, and it got bigger. And then basically I started an organization called Miikana. It's a cultural wellness activity program. And from that, we had gotten a few grants to help adolescents, men, the support groups, father support groups. Basically the time of healing. I remember this elder told me long ago that, as for people, us Snowy people, it's a time for healing now. And we have a lot to heal from, the grief and loss and many things that are happening in our communities today. So we provide that for our people. We have a Talkie Circle on Thursday night over at the White Earth office. But when we were doing our Talkie Circle at the Gamaji building or at AICHO, we'd get anywhere between 30 to 40 people that would attend our Talkie Circle on Tuesday night. And when COVID hit, we had to shut it down. So I decided to start it on Zoom. And every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock on Zoom, we have our Talkie Circle. And we get people from as far as from Arizona, all the way to Canada, Quebec, different provinces that share. They people from different reservations. They have come on and, they feel so alone, but when they log on to our Talkie Circle, it gives them an opportunity to share what's really going on with them. And a lot of them feel a heck of a lot better after they leave. They might be going through a lot of things when they enter the Talkie Circle, but they feel a lot better when they leave. So again, I've been doing this for many years now, and it's for the people. And I learned long ago, and it's that helping our people is so important, especially today's environment and what's going on in the world today. Drug overdoses, murders, suicides, and the mental health aspect to be able to recognize, when a person is having an episode of some sort in their mental health, and to be able to, intervene and talk with that person, after or bring them to the side and immediately. So again, it's something that we've been doing for a long time, and it's still going on, and we're still doing it. And I learned long ago that my father would always say, never exclude anybody. Everybody has things going on in their lives. You open up that door, and they might not come all at once, but eventually they will come. And today they're still coming, and tomorrow they will come again. So we'll be there for them. I hope that answers your question. There's so much more to it, but a quick overview of what we do.
Yeah, no, thank you. So are there other healing activities that you offer too?
Well, we provide opportunities for beautiful sweat lodges. And during the big drum ceremony aspect, we bring people up in a big drum, expect talk to them about that specific ceremony that's going on. And my friends and I, we got a sweat lodge, so we have sweat night or whatever. We provide transportation for people that don't have a ride out there. And basically, we provide the types of transportation is a big thing. Getting people where they want to go. And when we have the opportunity to do that, we do that. And my wife and I, we're a 2-car family, so we got enough room.
Yeah, that's great. So how do the cultural practices that you offer, how do they help the people who attend?
Well, it it's a spiritual connection. And when we talk about culture, we have to realize that what's within our culture is a spiritual way of life. And when we talk about culture, to the people, a lot of the 7 teachings apply. And I let them know if you apply one of these 7 teachings into your life every day, you're doing it. One, love, respect, honesty, openness, truth, humility. And the 7 teachings is probably one of the foundations of what we do. you know, when it comes to also the healing aspect. Because a lot of people, you know, in recovery, it's got a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. And that's one thing that, you know, we want to help them to create a voice for themselves, a healing voice, you know, for themselves and their families and their community. And that's so important. In the cultural aspect of it, again, the spiritual aspect of it, it all plays a big part. You know, from giving young people spirit names. They might not know how to, you know, ask that question and to an elder or a spiritual person. So we give them advice, you know, to how to do this, you know, and how to, you know, what's expected of that. And so again, the cultural aspect of the spiritual aspect, you know, is so important. Because I guess, you know, what they say is we're spiritual beings living in human existence. And once we allow our people to that spiritual healing, and the cultural identity, it's so important.
Thank you. So I want to open up to questions that I have for both of you. So I just want to pose the question or offer the question, and then how whoever would like to. Well, I'd like to hear from both of you if possible, but whoever wants to go first. But how do you get the word out about the, you know, about the sobriety feast and about the talking circle and support groups? Like, how do you let people know in the community that these are going on?
We do a lot of advertising on Facebook by sharing it. And then I make up flyers and pass them out to the different halfway houses, treatment centers, anywhere actually that I can hang one up.
Well, yeah, that's basically the same with us. You know, we put something on Facebook. They'll follow my Facebook page and stuff, and I'll post, you know, the talking circle on Tuesday night, and this is the YD number, and this is the passcode, you know, and hop in, and basically, you know, for our meetings here, the talking circle that we have in person now, you know, and that was do flyers and, you know, and word of mouth. People are word of mouth. So people, I remember this couple came and they heard it from a taxi driver. You know, they were kind of, where are we going? And the taxi driver was my son, and he said, well, there's my dad does this kind of stuff, you know. Sure enough, they showed up. You know, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, so me basically just out there, you know, word of mouth, the flyers, the street, hitting the pavement, and letting people know that we're doing nice things.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's great. And like the one thing about Duluth is that we have a lot of Native people that move into Duluth for different reasons, like they might be going to school or they might be looking for work, or you know, I know that there's a lot of people that come here specifically for sobriety support. I've had family members who've moved down here because, you know, they go through Mishkausen and then they go through the halfway house, and then they feel like they're going to do better in recovery if they're here, kind of away from the environment that they had just left for a while till they get kind of on their feet. So, you know, hearing about, oh, here's a space that we can go that's free. And both of your spaces are like where people can reach them, right? Like the force up at the fourth Ave or up at the Central Hillside Community Center. Do you have a lot of people that walk or come by bus?
People walk, people carpool. I know a lot of people that have come from halfway houses will just take the whole halfway house for the meeting. And it's centrally located, so a lot of people do walk.
Yeah. And then Frank, is that the same for yours as well?
Oh yeah. We get a lot of people that, you know, they live close by. So, and again, the halfway houses will come, the treatment center will come, and different people, you know, they'll provide their transportation. And if not, I'll go pick them up myself. So
yeah,
I ain't got a problem doing that. I'll provide transportation for one that can't make it.
Yeah, that's great. I know Fond du Lac had a sobriety feast, and I don't know if it's still going on, but I used to go out there, but if you don't have a ride, it's really, it's great that we have it right here in Duluth. So, and then the support, to have support on a weekly basis is such a huge thing for our community. So I have a question, like, so what could help both of you in the work that you do? Like, how could the wider community support this kind of work?
Frank?
For me, basically, I've been doing this for so long, and being consistent with it and reaching out to the community, and being a nonprofit organization, applying for grants and different people that I know and whatever. But it's like, I don't know, put it that we do what we do, and as far as donations and that we've been making it for so long, without them, it just becomes a part of it, and that's what we do. And I've learned, it's not about how much money we have; it's about the people we serve. And our program, we serve many people for many different reasons. From alcohol, drugs, from providing brief education. And it's all about healing. So as far as different organizations, donating, it's never turned down. That's what I'm sure. But we're just doing what we do, and that's, I guess, in some ways, how can I put it? That's what we do. So it'd be nice to have $1 million, but I got $1 in my pocket. And one lady that I know of long ago, when we first started, her name was Diane, and she would come to our talking circle, and I don't know how she found out about it. But when she first came, she had all this stuff wrapped around her, and here was all her belongings. She had a plastic bag. She had a few coats on, and she was a homeless woman. And she came to our group. She came to our talking circle. And she was a non-native woman. And as she went on, you could tell, as she talked and whatever, you could tell there's some mental illness going on as well. And then one day, I was complaining. I was about to give up. So why am I doing this? I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm getting frustrated. We got no money, I got no people, blah, blah, blah. And I was just venting and whatever have you. And pretty soon this woman reached in her purse and she gave me $1. And she said, I hope this helps. And that $1, much more than just $1. It was like, there's a reason why we're doing what we're doing. So I came home and I framed that $1 and I put it on the frame. I said, this is Diane's $1. So no matter how hard it gets, we can't give up. We can't give up on our people. And today it's just more so than ever. So as far as reaching out to different organizations for help, money-wise or whatever, it will come, when it comes. But I'm very grateful that we're able to be at the space. We were given the space, and at first over at AICHO, but now we do our talking circle in person over at the White Earth offices, which is right across the street. And the one on Zoom, and thank Ivy for helping us out. We get a little stipend from them and for doing the Tuesday night Zoom meeting. And that keeps that meeting going. So it helps out. Hope that answers your question.
Francis, what do you see as like ways that others could help, the wider community could support the work that you do?
We do get a grant to help with the sobriety feast every month. But I think the biggest thing that I would think help-wise would be advertising. If we could get it out there, because some people come once in a while and they're like, oh, we never knew this existed. We never knew this was going on. So if we could advertise better and just get it out there in the community that this is happening, that would be tremendous. That would be a tremendous help.
Great. Do you see any other opportunities in our community, the ways that our community could respond to recovery and well-being? So I know you both are doing it, and you have, like, you just started doing it, you saw that there was a need and you picked up and you met the need. And as time goes on, I know things change. So, like, do you see other things that our community needs? And it's specifically to, like, well-being and to recovery.
Well, for myself, personally, I know the opportunity for mental health. And the people that come to our group, the talking circles, they talk about the depression, anxieties, and different types of aspects of mental health. And more opportunities for the people to participate in any type of mental health programs. And I know mental health, it's a big thing. It's the needed thing, and the time that people wait to get appointments, is quite a long time. So again, mental health is a big thing. Suicide prevention, different types of stuff like that. And grief support. I know that the Center Health and St. Mary, they provide a grief, and that's one thing for our people, is that grief is a big issue. And it's historical, it's generational. And when a person comes to sit down and talk, to be able to provide the grief education aspect, which is a cultural aspect of it. And I've been doing that for many years, and be able to conduct grief groups and to be able to provide healing circles and that aspect. So I guess, reaching out and allowing, letting the community know, and I'm sure, they already do, but it's basically our people need a lot more, and different mental health issues, and now, it's just our children today, there's a lot of things going on, and being there to help them as well. So, it's something that there is a need, but there's a greater picture. There's a lot more out there than what I'm talking about. So I hope that answers your question.
Francis, you want to?
For well-being.
Yep.
I second that about the mental health aspect of it. I think that there's not enough resources for people dealing with mental health stuff. We've had some people that have come to the meetings that are just not doing good mentally, and it's sad. There's not enough resources, and I think the police just get sick of dealing with the same people all the time. And another thing that is constantly brought up is like getting the Rule 25s. And when people say they're ready to go to treatment, they're ready now. And there's a small window, I think, that they are willing to get the help. And if that window, if that time passes, they need the help when they need the help. And I think it takes way too long to get into treatment. It takes too long to get a Rule 25. I think something along them lines needs to get better.
Thank you. So we're coming up on, I want to see if there's any final messages that you both would want to share with our audience tonight around, the importance of culture, the importance of culture as it applies to well-being and to recovery. or anything about our community.
I think it's really important for people to feel supported, and like with the meetings that we do, if people just come just to listen, if people feel connected, I think it really, really helps a lot. And I'm glad to be doing what we're doing. I have another person that helps. And I'm just glad to be able to do just a little something to help. I'm just humbled.
I think, I don't know for myself personally, I've been living in Duluth for about 36 years now, and I found sobriety here 36 years ago. And like again, you know, participating in different programs throughout the years, you know, community justice programs, well-being programs, yeah, and basically doing that type of work, doing that type of stuff. I think it's a passion, you know, it has to be a passion. I remember my late cousin would say, you know, once you find your passion, you'll never work again. You know, and that was so true. You know, and I think that's one thing about being committed to that, being dedicated to that. Now, I don't know if it's a lot of fun coming out the gates. Everybody's excited, you know, but in the long run, pretty soon people start fading away. You know, but you need people that are going to be committed and dedicated, you know, to helping our people. You know, just not, you know, our people, but all people. You know, we all struggle in this world today. But I think we have something that people are attracted to. You know, and that's who we are as Anishinaabe people. Yeah, and we're caring people, giving people, but yet we're strong people as well. You know, and to be able to help a person create a voice for themselves, yeah, and wellness and doing the things that they need to do for themselves and their families, and then eventually start giving back to the community. That's how it works. And the things that we do, we've been doing it for many years, and I'm not a type of person that really talks about myself, you know, but the thing is that, no, actually, I gotta say, I talk about myself. That's in July. That's my sobriety birthday. So I talk a lot about Frank, you know, during that month. That's the only month I do. You know, my achievements and my accomplishments, the things that I've done. You know, but besides that, it's a we thing. It's all of us. You know, from the sobriety feast, the Thursday night wellness talking circle, the grief groups, the men's group, the father support groups that we're going to start up. And it's all about wellness, you know, for me personally. And my journey has been a long journey. Yeah, I was a victim at one time, but now I'm a survivor. You know, I learned to live a good life, that Mino. You know, our ancestors talked about that. You know, to live a good, long, healthy life. And we talk about the Miikana, the path, the good road that we're on. And I tell people it's hard to live a good life and walk a good road when you got so much hurt and pain that you're carrying around. Here's an opportunity for you to help yourself. And they're doing it for a while now, continue to do it. But I put one foot in front of the other. I'm there. So that was taking me with for this opportunity. Anyway.
Yes, me wish.
Well, yeah, I want to say thank you to both of you, because I just, I really mean it is such an honor to be here with you. And I'll just share with you, like Frank, when I moved to Duluth, I didn't know anybody in Duluth, and I went down to, I'm like, well, where do all the Native people hang out? And someone said, well, go to the Damiano Center. And there's a room in there called the Katari, is it Katari or Kateri? Kateri Center. And they said, there's a man in there who he runs it, Don Goodwin. So just go there. So, you know, I'm in my early 20s and I came down here for school. I didn't know anybody. I left my community where I knew everybody and everybody, we all took care of each other. So I go over to the Damiano and your dad is in there and he welcomed me in. He gave me a cup of coffee that was like thick as mud. And him and Bob Morrison, you know, like I would go and visit with them and I needed that support. And then I was struggling and I'm an alcoholic and I went to treatment. When I got done with treatment, it was your dad that I went and did my rule 20 or my step 5 with, which is really, it was scary for me to do that, you know, and I think it's like our community members that step up and really help and are there for each other. And right now I'm the co-executive director of this organization and I participate in these different conversations across the state. And, you know, like last month, the governor's office, they have this call with all the urban American Indian leaders. And a lot of the leaders down in the metro area, they're talking about the impact of the opioid crisis and the number of community people that we're losing. And there's a lot of overdoses that are happening and a lot of what you talked about, like massive grief happening because of the losses. And so I see like our community members who might feel like they don't matter or they're stuck or they're really struggling, but for their family, they are so important. And like for our community, they are so important. Their lives matter and they're so valuable. So, I mean, when I look at the work that, you know, Frank, that you're doing and Francis, what you're doing, you know, last month I was able to go to the Sobriety Feast for the first time here in Duluth and I felt welcomed in. I felt at home. I felt like I was with my people. I felt like I belonged and like I needed that. Like I needed that connection and I could see that we all need that. But, you know, when you're in recovery, you need that support to get through. So, you know, it is really such an honor to be here with both of you and just want to thank you. And that you did this grassroots, that you just picked up and you saw a need and you started to offer it. And really the hope tonight is that more people will understand the importance of the work that you're doing and more people will hear about it and try out try to go to the talking circle or go to Sobriety Feast and feel welcome and know that that's going to be a good place, that they know that those are good places. So I know that we have some questions and I'm going to ask Ivy if she will help with some of the questions that the people that are here tonight have for both of you.
Sure. So the first question was to Frank. Do you find that some come to Zoom just to talk? Maybe they are disconnected from their family or have lost community connections. So
come to share. For instance, we get a young lady from Red Lake. Her brother died and she was the only one at the hospital. So it was laid on her, all that pressure of sending that thing. Well, she was in a real bad spot. And she'd been sober, a couple of months, but she needed a place to come to basically cry and basically share what was going on with her, to share her sorrow, her hurts and her pains and her worries. And when she did that, she felt a heck of a lot better. And so that's the one on Zoom. And that's the reason why we've been doing that one.
okay. And then a question for both of you. Thank you, Frank. Is how many people come to your sessions?
The
Typically.
Sobriety Feast, it varies. Some months there's 60 people. Sometimes there might just be 15. It varies. But we usually do have a good turnout.
And on our Zoom, we have a core group of people that show up every week. We get about 6 people that show up. 6 people will show up, and they've been coming since we basically started it. And as far as our in-person, we get maybe 15 to 20 people every Thursday night. And that men's group, we get probably about 12 people that come on a regular basis. So we do get a pretty good number of people that show up on the week.
Okay, that's great. And then I put in the chat, the link, the Facebook link to your wellness site, Frank, so people can go to that and check that out. But Francis, do you have a group page for the sobriety feast, or is it just your page that you post about?
Just off my page, and then the guy that helps run the meetings, he posts off of his page. I should actually start a actual sobriety feast page.
Yeah.
But it just gets shared through Facebook, and then like I said, we make flyers and then hand them out.
Okay, and AICHO does share the flyer on our AICHO Facebook page as well. And I found the October 28th, right? That's the next one. So I put that link to that flyer on
Okay.
Facebook, so people can click on that and find that out. So let's see, what are the main barriers you see in those seeking mental health assistance?
I think evaluations, people do, they need to have that initial evaluation. And for people to, they feel they're afraid, and a lot of people have that fear of being labeled as mentally ill, and that stigma that goes along with it. But I think, once they understand it and being willing to have somebody on their side to say you're going to be okay, but it's that initial is the beginning. And but for a lot of the people, the people that struggle with mental illness, they only go see the doctor when it's a crisis, an emergency. When they show up at the hospital, and the doctor is not a psychiatrist, but they'll prescribe them some medication. But I think it's just that initial beginning, and it's so important to have somebody with them, advocate for them, and to talk for them, because it's hard to put your words together when you're having a manic or whatever type of situation you're going through.
Yeah, I agree with what Frank said. I have a close relative that is dealing with mental health issues. And the fear, I think, is a great barrier. They sometimes are just afraid to even take a shower. They're afraid of the doctors. They're afraid of being locked up. I think the fear is the greatest barrier.
Okay, that was the last question. If there's any other questions, feel free to put those in the chat. We have a few more minutes. LeAnn, did you have any questions that popped up for you?
No, I can't, no, like the only thing I was just like wondering, like for people who might not have experienced like what that means when you don't have access to cultural, like if you grew up and you didn't know the culture. I know like that's a really common experience in our community. And could you talk a little bit about why it's important to have like easy access or like friendly spaces for people to come in to like experience that?
Sometimes people are just embarrassed because at no fault of their own, they didn't get to learn what other people already know. So maybe that embarrassment or shame or whatever they feel hinders them from learning or asking. And it's nice to be able to just have it available. People can come and sit and listen, learn, participate. Some people have never smudged, and to just be in the moment and practicing your culture just in that little way is just an awesome experience for people that haven't got that opportunity growing up.
I think that's important. I think to identify with certain things, and certain sacred items that we have. And I'll tell a little story about a young man. And we had our talking circle, and we saw the pipe from the outside window. He saw the pipe that was sitting there, and he was wondering about what are these people doing out there? What are they doing? And they came down, and he sat, and had the opportunity to smoke the pipe and to share, in our talking circle. And that's what he said. I was standing outside looking down in the gymnasium from that window, and I saw that pipe, and I wondered, why are they doing that? And that's that connection. He knew about the pipe, and he knew about that he was Anishinaabe, and that he wanted to find out what was going on, and that was that instant connection. But unfortunately, a few days later, he ended up dying from an overdose. And that's when I heard that, it was like, wow, he was attracted by the pipe, but in some ways, he might have felt, because of his addiction, it kept him away from that. And we're trying to talk about the shame, not knowing. I'm very fortunate, when I was in high school, back in the 70s, there was a big push on culture, Native American culture. And we learned how to speak basic Ojibwe language, Uju, Anin, counting and basic stuff, but understanding that. And I think so many of our people, they have shame for not being able to speak our language, or wondering what this, the stage is, and all the medicine, the different things we have. They have a lot of shame and a lot of guilt about not knowing. And I let them know, I wasn't raised this way. Well, my dad was an alcoholic. We moved around many different places. I didn't know until I was a teenager. And when my father sobered up, he started wanting to learn about the culture. So he taught us as well. So I think, to help the people get over that shame that they feel, not speaking the language, and to a point where they're not even willing to try. And when I let people, I always say I do Ojibwe language 101. This is the basic stuff. And how long you been speaking English? Oh, well, my life. Like, no, you had to learn how to speak English. You had to learn how to conversate. When you were a baby, you cried. That's all you taught. That's how you communicated. So basically, if you know what Ani means, now let's add on to that. Ani means hello, how are you? I am well, thank you. And you. We're having a conversation now. So it's helping the people to get over that. That they gotta take a chance. It's like sitting around a drum and you don't know how to sing, but you're too embarrassed to let people know you don't know how to sing. That you're not willing to try. And that's how you learn by trying. And letting the people know that, hey, you're gonna make mistakes, and it's okay to make a mistake. That we all make mistakes. Ain't nobody perfect here. And a good singer had to learn somewhere. A good dancer had to learn someplace. A good beater had to learn somewhere. And it was at the beginning. And so I get to myself, just helping people get over that shyness or that insecurity. The more they sing, the more confident they feel about themselves. The more they learn the language, the more confidence they feel about themselves. You're producing your identity. This is who you are as Anishinaabe. And you carry that on with yourself, your family. You teach your children to pray. You enhance your family. Then you go into your community, help your community. Because there are people out there. And like LeAnn, we're talking about my dad. That's one thing when he passed on, he left a legacy. And for myself personally, I picked up that legacy. And my sister Heidi's the same way. We pick it up to help our people, just as my father did. But we do it a little bit different way than my father did. But the bottom line is we're helping our people. And it's so important to do that. But we have to remember to help ourselves too. I went on a little quick trip out to South Dakota, went to Bear Butte. I sat there and prayed all afternoon. And I left some tobacco ties hanging on this spot, that those tobacco ties would be there forever now. my prayers will be there forever. So, yeah, it's a good thing. Very good. And thank LeAnn. She does wonderful work. I you too.
Me good.
We have one more question and then I think we'll close, but so just Ivy, can you ask that one?
Sure.
again?
Yes. So the question is, are there any examples where other community organizations have embedded cultural elements successfully in their treatment or mental health programming that you could share? So other community organizations that embed cultural elements in their treatment and mental health programming.
Well, I know, we call it a treatment center. Yeah, we're drug and alcohol recovery. Wisconsin, they got the Thunderbird Rent House, and they provide cultural activities. But as far as other, I know like the Gamaji, down at the AICHO, they provide cultural activities for their people and stuff. And same with us, the White Earth office. But it's kind of, I don't want to put it, it's hard to duplicate a program. You can get, but it's basically doing what you do and in a good way. It always has to be done in a very humble way, in the things that we do. But as far as, I really don't know. I know of two places at Wisconsin and Thunderbird Rand, and then also AICHO. As far as that, and then I know like the Red Lake office, they provide cultural stuff, drumming, art, different types of things. White Earth office provide that. I'm not too familiar with the boy sport office up there, but I don't know if they provide anything out there as well. But I know for our White Earth office is for everybody. We don't specifically just help White Earth people. It's all the people. So as far as I know.
Yeah, I know the Red Lake office, on Thursdays, they do drumming, and they also have a regalia class. And then also they're going to be bringing back language table on Thursdays too.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know White Earth, they provide like Pat St. Germain helps out the ladies making outfits and stuff on Wednesday and Thursday. And we provide our groups on Wednesday and Thursday evenings and stuff. So yeah, it's good that the urban offices are doing that.
Yeah.
It's open for everybody, really. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that part of this series is to share some of the strategy. Well, I call them cultural strategies. They're embedded in our cultural practices and our activities that they're designed to heal. They're designed to strengthen people, and they work. It's effective. And so I think that community members and community leaders like yourself have a lot of good information that could help other programs, as they're thinking through how they're trying to connect with people or offer, services, resources, and healing. We're a community together working on all of these issues, and our community is, we have a lot of health challenges. I mean, like our wider community has a lot of health challenges, and then we have what we call racial disparities, where BIPOC community is really experiencing some negative outcomes at higher rates disproportionately, and we're all trying to figure that out. So I think this conversation around like why culture matters and how it's effective in helping people, it's a solution. When you have people that maybe don't go to other meetings, they might not go to AA or NA, but they come to a sobriety feast and they get something really good there, and it helps them in their recovery. Or they come to Talking Circle and they're getting something that meets their needs. There's something happening there, and that's what we need to understand. Like what is that, and how can we expand that? So again, I want to say thank you to both of you for sharing all of your knowledge and your wisdom and your commitment to our community, you know, your dedication to be there for our community members, and you're so humble. And, you know, and so it's like always like the ones who you're humble, so you don't want to broadcast out your work, but I'm just so grateful that you're here to share what you're doing, because it's really important. So I want to say miigwech, and I want to say miigwech to the people who joined us tonight for taking the time to be here and to like really learn. I learned a great deal, so I just want to say thank you. And this recording will be sent out, and we'll say miigwech and good night.
Oh, miigwech. It's been an honor. Guys. So, yeah.
All right, well, thank you, and then we'll close for this evening.
All right, there you go.
Right.